at the bone.
The sweet and the meat.
Simplicity is the sign of
Gentility.
ignorance has got no
Defense.
We had a very good beginning, but when he came here, life just took a 360-degree turn.
Hakukuwa na nyumba, kulikuwa ni msitu.
Ilikuwa nyumba ya nyasi wakachoma. Watoto wote mtu nilichapa sana ni Daniel.
I was the most notorious boy in this family.
I never liked school at the beginning.
I topped my class in KCE by then.
I didn't value education until later on in life.
We always remember where we've come from.
We live together and they have to live together.
Hold on to that unity.
When a family is united, you know, the burden becomes smaller.
My name is Wilfred OKANDA. This is home. Charles OKANDA and Mom, famously known as the OKANDA's family. Of recent, we have named the home OKANDA's Family Farm. So if you go to Google Maps, you can be directed to OKANDA's Family Farm.
Mimi naitwa Judith Okanda. Ni mtoto wa tatu kwa familia.
Okay, my name is Daniel Baraza Okanda, and this is home. I'm the 9th born in this family.
My name is Job Okanda. We are 4 boys. I'm the last boy in the family.
So I had, I would say, a mixed childhood. Being the first son with 4 girls ahead of me, I would say I was really taken good care of. But as a family, we had, and my elder siblings, we had a very good beginning because my dad had a good job and you know, worked in Uganda. A lot of stories around the life he led there. But when he came here, life just took a 360-degree turn. And it was very humbling growing up, very humbling. My elder sisters and me were born in Uganda. So my elder sisters remember the life in Uganda, but I don't. I just hear about it. I think we moved here when I was very young.
Maisha ya Uganda ilikuwa mzuri. Ilikuwa haijabadilika kama sasa. Kuanga mzuri sana. Na tulikuwa tunaishi, mzee wangu alikuwa anafanya kwa factory ya majani chai. Mahali inaitwa Mbende. Ndio tulikuwa tunaishi. Uganda tulikuwa tu tunafanya kazi. Tulikuwa tu mzee anafanya kazi. Haikuwa kwetu. Tulienda kutafuta. Na tukarudi nyumbani. Na wakati hiyo pia Amini alikuwa anafukuza watu. Na tukaanja mapema kama tujaingiliwa watu wenye si wa Uganda. Turudi nyumbani. Kurudi nyumbani. Shamba nyumbani ilikuwa kidogo.
I came to this location longer. And after knowing the other people, the owners, it's when we discussed and then I was given this to buy. Nilinunua tu.
Ulinunua? Venye ulirudi Kenya?
20 acres.
20 acres?
Yes, nilikuwa na pesa.
Nilifurahia sana ni mama aliponiambia tunatoka Uganda tunakuja. Tukakuja kwa hili boma. Hakukuwa na nyumba, kulikuwa ni msitu. Wakafieka pahali padogo. Tukaenda kulala pahali. Alikuwa step sister wa mamangu, akiitwa Sabina. Tukadala huko. Subuhi kabisa tukatolewa, tukakuja hapa. Wakajenga kitu kingine, kile kitu kanyumba kadogo kanyazi na ni matope, na wakasema tutalala hapo. Mimi nikasema what? Tukalala kwa matope pale baridi chini. Kasema basi, na maisha yakaanzia hapo. Tukitoka Uganda tulikuwa na vitu nyingi na tulikuwa round kubwa tukajaza ndani. So ikakuwa ni ilikuwa I think 28th or 29th December. Watu wamenunuliwa nguo za Christmas, umefurahi, tumesherekea kwa hiyo nyumba. Ikafika kitu saa 8, I think saa 8 saa 9. Mimi nilikuwa nimelala nikasikia nduru. Nyumba inaungua kwa Kiluya. Kasema what? By the time tuna realize ni moshi na ni everything. Tukatoka nje vile tulikuwa na siku hizo unajua kuko na night dresses. So tukatoka na tukasahau mtu mmoja, na huyu mtu alikuwa ni Fred. Sasa mimi nikashout, mama, Fred yako wapi? Mama anataka kujitupa ndani. Baba akajirusha ndani na akapata ofisa anatafuta nguo yake ya Christmas. Angekufa kwa sababu anatafuta nguo ya Christmas. Tukakuwa saved, but we came out with nothing. Completely kila kitu kiliungua.
Watu walichoma nyumba walikuwa watu wa Uganda. Kuna Liguru alikuwa ndugu wa mzee huyu tulinunua naye shamba. Alikuja, walitoanga pamba. Zamani watu walikuwa wanalima pamba. Walikuwa wanatoa pamba wakaleta kuuza Kenya. Sauri pesa ya Kenya ukienda kubadilisha utapata mingi. Sasa walikuwa wanatoa pamba Uganda wanaleta kuuza Kenya. Sasa walileta pamba, huyo Liguru alishika pamba zao. Sasa walikuja hapa akapata nyumba yenye tunaishi, ilikuwa nyumba ya nyasi. Na akaona ni nyumba kubwa, wakafikiria ile ndio boma la Liguru. Na wakachoma.
Growing up, we had a lot of challenges, but they were not challenges then. We felt it as a normal way of life because that's what we had, and when we also look at our relatives, we were living under the same conditions. Whatever we went through built us to be whatever we are today, and we really thank our parents for taking us through that process and making us understand how life is.
Growing up in this home, in this community, built a sense of responsibility in us, and that sense of responsibility came as a result of the kind of parents we've had and the kind of brothers and sisters that came before us.
We struggled quite a bit. I remember we just had one grass thatch house around here, and that's where we all lived.
Mzee mwenyewe alikuwa anashughulika na school fees. Na mimi nishughulike na upande wa kufalisha watoto na kuwalisha. Nikaanza kuuza mahindi sokoni.
We had a farm, so my dad every day will wake us up, take us to the farm. And that's where we'll get our meals. We'll plant maize, we'll plant cassavas, we'll plant potatoes. That's where we'll get our meals.
When we were in Uganda, we lived a very comfortable life. But when the East African community broke, he came back to start hustling. He got bad jobs, but manual. And as my mother tried to do a little business at the market, sustain us, food, clothing, and maybe help was the work of my mother. But my father struggled with paying our fees. My father worked with curry, and the experiences he had with curry, he brought them home. I remember when I did my 6th form, my father had planted 1.5 acres of tomatoes. And it was like, I'm the only one home, and I have to do the selling. The whole day I would go to the shamba at 6 to harvest tomatoes. We didn't have a shambaman. Harvest tomatoes with Fred, bring them here. When you come, people have come, they have bought, they are gone. At noon you go, this heat, you are in the shamba, harvesting the tomatoes, and then in the evening.
So we grew up as a big family. We used to sleep in one house. With also our cousins, our cousins could visit us here, and we'll spend time together, we'll play together, we'll go graze cattle together, we'll go to the farm together. We used to do a lot of things together.
Growing up in this home, in this community, built a sense of responsibility in us.
Yeah, personally I didn't want to go to school. I think I was the most troublesome boy in this family because I didn't go to kindergarten first of all. I went for 1 week and then I stopped going. I didn't like school because by the age of 7 I was doing a lot of, I was following people, you know, in the village. There are these people who do, I don't know, inaitwaje kufunika nyumba nyasi. Those days we didn't have mabati houses in the village. All the villages had grass thatched houses. So I used to follow those guys and learn from them how you can go and cut grass and go and feel where it's raining. So I used to do a lot of those works. I used to do that, and I used to run away from home most of the time.
Watoto wote mtu nilichapa sana ni Daniel. Daniel alikuwa na kiburi kabisa kabisa.
I was a very indisciplined boy. I was the most notorious boy in this family. I might say that. I was like a crook. I actually burnt my mom's kitchen once. I lighted it up and burnt it down to ashes. In primary, I think I was less than 10 years. I remember that very well. So I used to be beaten every day. Like it was normal to be beaten. And sometimes I'll be beaten until I'm not able to sit like this.
Nilichapa kabisa na Daniel akarudi. Akawachana na grupu na akaendelea na masomo yake.
I never liked school at the beginning. So I was taken to nursery, and what was interesting for me was, I remember we'll leave home, and I'll not leave home without being bribed. I'll say being bribed. I was being bribed to go to school.
Huyu alikuwa ananisumbua kwenda shule. Alikuwa katai kwenda shule, lakini kama hujampea shilingi 5 aendi.
So baba alikuwa na pesa kidogo na akaamua mtoto wake anasoma boarding. Nikianza shule walinipeleka shule inaitwa Dabani Primary. Dabani Primary is in Uganda. Baadaye nilitoka hiyo shule. Nikaanzishwa shule Alupe na tulikuwa tunafunzwa na wazungu. I was done with my primary na nikaenda Chakol Girls. I was assistant head girl when I was in form 2. Nikifika form 3 nikakuwa head girl wa shule. So nilifanya mtihani nikamaliza. Lucky enough, by God's grace, I topped my class. In KCE by then, I received a letter to go to Lugulu Girls for my A-levels. Then I also got a letter to join Chakol Girls.
But going to school with my brothers and sisters, whenever we arrived at the gate of the school, I always wanted to go back home. And that made me, when we get into the gate actually, I used to follow my brother or sister to their class. So I'll cry, you know, and they used to feel really bad and embarrassed about it. But I never really, you know, understood, you know, the reason for going to school. I was still young. And I remember we had this teacher, Madame Rose. I think she's late now. For me to stay in class, she used to sit with me. And at break time, with my own stupidity, I thought people were going to play. I never knew. I thought because our school didn't have a fence, there were just trees all over. So I used to think that's their route home, you know. And I would follow, I'll just walk through the gate and go back home. I thought it's time to go home. And it was interesting growing up because there was nothing like an academy. There was nothing like a private school. So whether you're rich or poor, we all went to the same school, you know. The only difference is there are those who were being dropped by cars. There are those who are coming on bicycles. There are those who are wearing shoes. There are those who, those of us who used to walk barefoot.
I didn't value education until later on in life. That's when I valued education. But I thank God that my parents were very strict. And they forced me to go to school. I will skip school for a month, hide myself in the bush for a whole month. I'll follow guys to school, then I climb a mango tree, stay there, wait for lunchtime, come down the mango tree, come back home, eat lunch, and go back to the mango tree. So I'll miss class for a whole month. But fortunately, I had very supportive siblings, and my parents also supported me so much. They ensured that I go to school. I was called to St. Paul's Amkura. It's here in Teso. It was a shining school at that time. It was one of the best schools, but due to school fees issues, I was not able to be admitted. So I was taken to a day school in a place called Luanda, that is in Vihiga County. So I was in a day school, and it was really tough because I had to walk every day 4 hours. 2 hours going, 2 hours coming back, because it was very far. So that's where I went from my Form 1 to Form 4. And I think it became so tough because sometimes it could rain, and there was a river that I was supposed to be crossing every day. So it could rain and that river would flood, and I could not be able to cross.
Something interesting, you know, when I remember class 8, especially when exams came out, you know, around class 6 there, I found people were making fun of my name because it was job, like work and stuff. And then I also felt it was too short, so I added an A myself. And people in the family only came to realize when they saw my class 8 result slip, like it's now Joab. And yeah, and my sister Judy, I remember her telling me at some point that she's actually the one who gave me that name because she saw the challenges that Mom went through when she was carrying me, you know, and she reflected on the book of Job and, you know, the challenges that Job went through, and, you know, that's the reason that that name was given to me. But she came to tell me that a bit later when I was actually in high school. I was called to Kolanya High School, and my dad felt the marks I had scored do not resonate with that school. I always reflect on this and the impact that Dad has had on me. Dad had taken a bicycle and rode that bicycle to Butler High School, and he got me admission at Butler High School. Every time I think about it, I become very emotional.
There's an aunt of mine who said, "You are not going to for A-levels." Told my father, "You are not going, usimpeleke." Kwa nini? Atulipia tu wavulana peke yake fees, au wasienda pata mimba na waache pesa yako kwa shule.
Mimi mwenyewe baba alikataa kunipeleka kwa shule. Kupeleka mtoto wake msichana kwa shule, ataenda kuacha pesa yake kwa shule, anaenda kuoleka apate mimba. Wachane wote baba hakuwafundisha. Lakini watoto wake vijana wote walisoma. Na mimi nilisema, hata sasa bado nasemanga, kuwe mjukuu wangu, akuwe kitukuu. Mimi mwenyewe sijasoma, na sitaki damu yangu ikose kusoma.
My father decided that because we speak our mother's tongue here, mother's language, including my dad, so he decided that I needed to learn a bit of Kimarachi, his language. So he took me to a school where I could speak Kimarachi.
My father was strong enough and he said, "A child is a child, and I'm taking my daughter to A-levels because she has done so well and she has made me proud."
Hapa kwangu sinina hapa bachelor ambaye wana bachelor degrees hapa kwangu. Ni tano.
So by then my elder sister was at Lugulu Girls. After shopping and coming, the head sent a letter for me at Lugulu Girls, knowing that it was too late to do what was required now. So I joined Chakol Girls for my A-levels.
So I got admission at Butler High School, and I remember my brother Wilfred coming in for me and committing to pay my school fees throughout the 4 years. And that in itself just showed us, you know, the sense of family, the sense of sharing, being a brother's keeper. You know, it's not many families your sister or your brother will step in and, you know, stand in for you and say, "I'm going to pay for you." He committed that I'll never go home because of school fees, and it was upon me to work hard and be who I am.
My dream was to become a lawyer. I qualified for law. By then, the 844 system was just behind us, and the government was struggling to promote it. So those of us who qualified for law that year were unfortunate, though with good grades, good marks, good points. I was called for education. I cried again because my dream had been shattered, but after joining Kenyatta University, I accepted.
I went to a technical institute in Samia. It's called Bumbe Technical. Studied accounting. I was fortunate to get a job at McKinney School. I was there for 7 years. So I moved from accounting to human resources. I was fortunate from McKinney, from accounting to Sanofi. It's a French pharmaceutical company. It was a big job. I was in charge of human resources for Eastern Africa, which included Mauritius and Madagascar, with the East African countries, and also Western Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, I went to ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, in Iraq, Baghdad.
I was a very indisciplined boy. I was the most notorious boy in this family. I might say that. I was like a crook, okay? So if my parents never shaped me, I'll never be where I am today. I think when the results came, that's the first time my dad hugged me. And I was actually planting maize in the farm. I saw my dad running towards me. I thought there's danger, because he was shouting. I thought it was danger. And then he hugged me. I didn't know even what was happening. Then he did like this. I didn't even know the results were out, because I was not listening to radio. In the village, you know, you don't know things. My sister was called from Nairobi. She was told that I was in the newspaper. So she's the one who left work, came back home and delivered the news to my dad, and then my dad ran to deliver the news to me. So I was also shocked, because it's something that I was not expecting. That is the journey for secondary school. Then I went to University of Nairobi. I did BCom, did BCom Finance, completed in 2009. After 2009, fortunately, I was lucky. I got a job before I finished university. I've also done my MBA. And I thank God this family really valued education, and I also value education. And what I'm trying to do is also help people who are stuck in terms of school fees. I help people in this village. I take 3 girls to school. I started this year. I'm taking 3 girls to school every year, paying for them school fees up to Form 4. Where I stay in Congo, I also take people to school. So education is something that is very valuable to me, and it's what has changed this family. If we never went to school, this family will not be the way it is today.
Well, I always say my dad is my role model, because he's a very humble guy. I'm sure you've heard him say simplicity is a sign of gentility. So he taught us all virtues to be gentle. He says ignorance has no defense, so we have no reason to say I didn't go to school. So he took us to school, and we have tried to do our best to take our children to school as well.
Being strict, my mother especially. My father was a bit lenient. He was not as strict as my mother, but my mother was very strict. And I think her strictness is what shaped this family.
My father was too soft. My father would not even kill a fly. Too soft. And he would not even tell you anything. But my mother...
Mom was the disciplinarian. His calmness, he was a disciplinarian, I'll say, in his own ways. In his own words, you'll tell that this is what Dad is not happy. You'll always know that this is what he requires of you, you know, by the things he'll tell you and how he'll approach certain things.
She was a perfectionist. Most of the time I was in this home with Fred, and I think we need to sit together to describe her. The irony is, I took after my mother.
Wewe mwenyewe mzazi una uwezo, lakini uwezo yuko kwa Mungu. Mungu ndiye anakulelea hao watoto. Unaweza sema leo watoto wangu watalala njaa, na unaona tu mtu anakuletea kitu unakula, yenye utarajia utapata.
When we were growing up, there was no girl or boy. There were no, you know, the way we are very, you know, we're a very patriarchal society. And then there are chores that are for girls, and then this for boys, you know. We grew up not knowing that this kind of work is only done by women, or this kind of work is only done by boys. We used to do everything. We used to wash utensils. We used to have a roster, you know, you wash today, tomorrow is your turn, or I washed at lunch, in the evening it's your turn. And it didn't matter whether you are doing your KCP exams, whether you're doing your exams and it's your turn to wash the utensils, you'll have to do it. I've come to reflect if mom and dad had assigned those roles. Like fetching firewood is, as a boy child, you're not supposed to go and fetch firewood or fetch water. What would have happened to our sisters, you know? How much school time would they have lost because our parents decided to follow what the society wants, or what the society wants from the boy child, what the society wants from the girl child.
Mungu alinipatia nguvu ya kulea watoto.
Our parents insisted on going to church. We grown up Catholics. Seeing mom, you know, she prays for us. She wakes up early in the morning to read her rosary. I don't know how many rosaries she does every morning, but that's because she prays for us for wherever we are. My brother Patrick makes this joke that, you know, when you ask him to pray, he'll always say, you know, mom already prayed for me. You know, so we have.
My family is very religious, and we really loved church. I also had the privilege of living with my grandmother, although shortly. She died in 1997, and I felt very bad. I was allowed to attend her funeral, and she was really religious. She actually wanted me to become a priest. So I served as an altar boy in church for some time. A Catholic church in Alupe. I was an altar boy. I used to serve the church. And I really wanted to go to the seminary and become a priest. I had a cousin who went to the seminary, and I used to admire him.
And my mother and father solemnized their marriage when we were seeing, started receiving the Holy Eucharist. I was baptized. I went for my catechism training first at Alupe. Then we were transferred to Busia church, Catholic church. And then finally we were baptized at Chakol. To date I'm a Catholic.
I always ask myself, you know, as we grow up, as our parents age, what will continue keeping us, you know, what will make people come to this home? What will make my sisters live wherever they're married to come to this home, as they still come when our parents are still alive? What will make my brothers come? What will make our neighbors, what will make our uncles, our cousins continue coming to this home? And one thing that makes me proud is that as a family, we always make an effort to come home in December and Easter and just congregate and share a meal.
We used to have a family event on the 26th where all family members will gather here so that we can know each other. Since the family is big, because I come from a family of 12, so our family is so big and people have grown. And there are people who call me granddad. I'm almost becoming a great-granddad. So we need to know each other. So we normally have that event where everyone comes and then we do introductions. There are people who have been born, people who have gotten married, people who have married. So it's just an event to bring people together. And also after a long time, people don't meet. So we use that occasion for people to meet.
My uncles, that is maternal uncles, there's a function. They came up with, in memory of their late father, they have something called sauna. The sauna brings us also together because that family meets every year. Like as I speak today, tomorrow, we have the sauna meeting where they have to go, meet at the family, and we children join them when we have the time.
Definitely it's not me. I'm the most serious, I'm told. I have a brother who is coming. He's called Dan. I think he's the funniest.
Daniel Baraza. And he was funny from childhood.
Okay, I'll give that to myself because I make people laugh.
I told you my mother was a disciplinarian. Then one time, Dan made a mistake. So when Dan made that mistake, and then mom wanted to beat him, you know, my mother would tell you, you start running, she was a sprinter. Kule utafika, ndio kule nitafika. So you just stand.
People are in the main house. There was a drum that used to be kept in the kitchen. So I climbed, there's those ventilations, the house ventilations. I climbed through the ventilations inside the house, and there was no way I could hide. I could hide myself because I was fearing the beatings will come again. So the only place I could hide was the drum.
So Dan got into the drum at 9 in the morning. He stayed in the drum from 9 to 6 to 7 to 8. Then now everybody's worried looking for Dan. Amepotea, ameenda wapi? Now we were sitting, eating round. You know, from 9 you are hungry. So Dan realized that hapa sitaweza. Njaa imezidi.
It reached a point where I could not hold the cough. So I coughed.
And when he coughed, people discovered that kumbe amejificha kwa drum kutoka asubuhi. So my mother was like, ona hii ng'ombe. Mimi nimekutafuta, nimechoka nini, come here.
That day I thought the beating will continue, but they actually sympathized with me. They did not beat me that night. It was at night. They did not beat me. They just removed me and allowed me to eat and sleep.
The first talent in this family is that every child in this family can sing so well. Mama's children. And even as I speak, Mama is a choir member in the church. All of us can sing, all of us have soloed in the church and sang. And as I speak, even today, we are having people coming here. The square where we used to sing, they are coming just to celebrate with us, just to let us sing again. We also have talents because in this, we have people who can play very well. I myself, I was a basketballer. We have badminton, to have 2 serious international badminton players as grandchildren. We have a musician here, Kim. He can sing, he has produced his music. We have another one called Ivy. Ivy acts, and she acted right from primary.
I think there are talents, although people don't want to explore them. Like my elder brother was a footballer. He's a good footballer, Wilfred. But I think sometimes people want to pursue employment more. I think they don't want to pursue their talents.
My name is Eunice Okoth. Came to know this family through Joab Okanda. All my life I've been in Nairobi. So coming to the village and meeting new people, because I've been born in a very small family. Coming to meet people, at first it was very hard for me. First of all, there are like 13 siblings. You meet extended, now the grandchildren, the aunties, uncles. Culturally, I've learned to embrace, because you're used to town life. For town life, everything flows. But here, there are cultures, the way they cook their food, the way they do their things, which is totally different from the town life, I should say.
Like Barack Obama said, dreams from my father. We have dreams from our father. We grew up being told who our father was, and we admired that. And we all aspire to be better than him. He traveled a lot, and none of us would get to a place where he was in his professional life. I've heard from neighbors as well who used to see him come here before we settled here, saying he was a big man. And I think that has shaped our dreams. So we've all grown up saying, I want to be better than him. We wanted to challenge him. And I think most of us have traveled widely.
My wish is that the unity in which our parents have brought us up that we hold on to that unity, that we don't have any divisions, and that's the legacy that we have to carry. Remaining united and ensuring that no one lacks, and not just as a family, but including those around us.
Together we stand. Together we stand. But where we have come from is God's grace, and we hope that our children will emulate what we have taught them and be what we have been.
The way they love their parents and the way they've grown together, because you know people see the outcome right now, but people don't know the journey.
Supportive, but pia iko na limitation. Supportive in that, especially if it's education, they would never let you kwama. Saini amke niseme nataka kufanya hii course. I'm sure kuna mtu atamka aseme I'll pay for that school fees. They're very supportive in that.
I'd say it's generally awesome. Yani, it's just awesome.
For this family, discipline is very key. We used to admire families here, and we really used to admire how they live. They used to live very well, but they lacked discipline. So they eventually disintegrated. The culture of discipline was instilled into us by our parents, and it has remained one of the most critical values that we uphold to date.
Hao watoto inafaa mwakalishe pamoja na muongee na watoto. Sasa ni wakubwa, wengine wako na wabibi. Kama watoto wa dada zenu wako na wabibi. Mnafaa mwakalishe pamoja, muwaongeleze. Wazazi wetu wakikufa, tunataka tukue hivi, tukue hivi. Watoto wapate mfano yenu mnafanya kwa boma. Hapo ndio boma inaendeleanga bila ukabila. Au mnaunganisha watoto pamoja wote. Mkuweka ukabila hao ni watoto wasichana, hapo mtakuwa mnaangusha boma. Lakini mfanyia pamoja, boma litasimama. Hata sisi tukitoka, boma litaendelea kusimama.
I want to see the younger generation embrace what the others have laid, the foundation. I want to see the unity, them embracing education and doing better than what has been done. I want to see people that give back to the community.
Also just being humble, you know, humility is a virtue that we all uphold. And then the sense of community. Yeah, sense of community.
In the next few generations, this family should be a family of cohesiveness. These children that we have should realize that we live together and they have to live together. And the family should also be a family that will give back to the society. Because we are here, maybe because people assisted to be here. The family should remain prayerful, because on our own we could not manage. It's God.
I think for me, the most important for me is for the family to remain united. We are not all the same. So when our family is united, you know, the burden becomes smaller.
We should continue having those moments where we continue supporting each other. Whenever there is an issue in the family, that we all come together, we all rally together.
This family has come from far, very humble beginnings. I think we will say God has been gracious. When we see where we are now, I think we are in a better place. And for years to come, for generations to come, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, I think it's just first and foremost to make sure that no one with my father's name, with OKANDA's name, stays at home, does not go to school. That is really first and foremost. And the second one is that we are trying to build some financial stability for everyone, but also to maintain the values that we hold as a family, because that's really what defines us.
Watoto ndio nguvu wa boma. Saa hii mko wakubwa, mbeleni inafaa wenyewe mjipange, mkae chini muone hili boma wazazi wetu wakitoka tutalipanga namna gani na tutaendelesha namna gani. Na kitu naomba tu watoto wangu waletenge watoto hata wakifunga shule wasoe kwa boma.
Over the years, a house by one man, Charles Okanda, has now grown into a home. A big family with grandchildren and great-grandchildren who get to share moments together, who get to celebrate ceremonies together and have a good time together. We now get to see graduates in the family. We get to see moments of children sharing with their parents. We see people traveling the world, a dream come true for the family. We get to see siblings sharing moments, celebrate wedding ceremonies, new in-laws being brought into the family. We now get to see sisters sharing joyful moments together. These memories that cannot be forgotten through pictures, through stories we're told by our grandparents. We get to see the birth of new graduates. Architects are born into the family, lawyers are born into the family, doctors are born into the family. This one man, Charles Okanda, is now a proud man because he gets to see what his family has turned into. Once a home with nothing but a grass-touched house has gone into a beautiful, beautiful generation filled with grandchildren, children's, daughter-in-laws. This is the Okanda's legacy, built by love and unity.